We're back.
We're back.
Today we talk about something that we're all living through today, which
Yes.
is the current economy. And so I figured we would talk about how do you thrive? How do you survive in a bad economy? Because we're getting bombarded with the economy's doing bad. We're seeing it, businesses that are struggling, our peers in the real estate world. Things have slowed down a lot because of the rates, and everybody's affected. So, as a millennial asking a boomer, how do you survive a bad economy? How do you do it?
How do you do it? I don't know. Tell me. So in preparing for this podcast, one of the things that kept coming up and up and up in all the areas that I went to look at and research was like the number one thing, common denominator was try to live below your means. Okay? Try to live below your means.
What does that mean?
That means that if you're making $10, try to live on $5 or $7, something like that. If you're making $10 and in order to sustain your standard of living, you have to spend 12,
Something's wrong.
something wrong. For sure, And so where do you put the additional 2 into? Credit card debt. Credit card debt can be at 17, 18, 19. There was one that was at 26% interest. So, if you pay the minimum amount on those credit cards, you will never, it was ridiculous. You will end up paying, consistent that you don't get additional debt. If you don't get additional debt, the current debt that you have at 26%, it'll take you something like 11 years to pay off if you pay the minimum payment.
It's almost criminal, huh? It's a form of, it feels like, nobody's forcing you to get a credit card, but I don't think that people are really aware of what you're getting into. I didn't know what interest rates
No, they're not.
were on the credit card. And it's okay as long as you have the ability to pay it, but the moment things change, and now that balance is accruing, and that 24%, 22% interest is being added to your statement each month.
Right.
That's when I think it really sinks in.
Oh, and there's a lot of people out there that don't know, but I think awareness is a lot higher nowadays because everybody's talking about credit card debt.
But when times were good, when the economy money was flowing, maybe people were not aware. I know personally I wasn't as aware of how much interest I was paying.
So that was one thing, live below your means.
Okay.
The other thing that a lot of people were talking about was if you currently have a job, okay, but it's a bad economy, but you currently are blessed to have a job because there are so many layoffs across the board, all over the place. There's a lot of companies, Microsoft, Google, Walmart, Intel, all of them are laying off people and have laid off people. Okay? So if you are one of the blessed ones to continue to have a job, what they're saying is, hey, look, try to see if you're able to save a little bit of money so that if something terrible happens, like you get laid off, you have an emergency fund. And what a lot of people were saying and what I was reading was that you should have at least 6 months of savings in an emergency fund, And, some people are already up to their eyeballs in debt. And so it's difficult to, you tell those people live below your means. Well, guess what? I'm too late to do that. So what do I do next?
Right. Or let's say that you have the ability to pay some things. Do you pay the credit card or do you start saving an emergency fund?
That's a good question. So you need to do a balance according to what I read. So if you've got credit card bills and you research your credit card and it's at 19%, 18%, 22%, 20 whatever percent, what a lot of people, the smart money should go to paying down your debt. Okay? If you still have a job, pay down your debt. If you don't have a job, then you may be on survival mode to the point that you have to take whatever money you've had or you saved, and you got to put food on the table for your family. It's that bad. I forget what the figure is, but it's over 50% of Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck. I know that one time I read it was 55, and then I thought it was 62. Don't quote me on this, folks. Look it up, But it's a huge amount of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. And so anything that comes out of the ordinary, like fixing a car, let's say that your transmission goes bad and you have to fix your transmission, okay? If you don't fix your transmission, which can potentially cost you $5,000 or more, then now you don't have a car. And if you're in an area where these people you need the car to go to work, to buy groceries, now what do?
I'm laughing because it happened to me.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
My transmission on my Old Faithful went out. And we were quoted what? 5,000?
We were quoted from 5,000, 5,500, 6,500, 7,500.
And the car's not worth that because, I had it for so many years. So that's the decision that I'm struggling with making. And then I'm sure many people in that situation, you also don't want to go into debt and get a new car. You can pick up a massive debt, let's say right now. So it's a challenge, figuring out what to do.
Yeah.
So living below your means. Now, that's something that I guess it's a lesson that people my age learn, because I would say that I personally got used to, let's say, a certain lifestyle, and then when my personal income was affected because I made a change in careers, the economy also changed, then I saw that I had to make some adjustments, right? And so it's a difficult thing to do, but the sooner that you realize that, the better. Because if not, you're, like you said, you're spending more than you're bringing in. And in the times that, let's say, the current economy, or your own personal economy, because let's say like the market could be doing great, but you don't have a job. So who cares what the market's saying? Oh yeah, the stock market's at all-time high. Yeah, but I'm unemployed because AI took me out.
That's right.
Or because they're downsizing.
Correct.
And we've seen it a lot. We're seeing it a lot in the real estate business. Loan officers, loan companies that are consolidating. We recently did business with one particular loan company that went from double the size building to half.
Correct.
And they've also downsized their team. So they're trying to, let's say, cut the fat. And I think a lot of businesses are doing that.
So since you brought up the the real estate field, 2025 is going to be the worst home sale year on record since 1995.
Are you talking about this current year, 2025?
Yes. As of August, it's turning out to be the worst home sale year.
Does that mean the amount of homes sold?
Yes.
Oh,
Topping. Okay. It's even higher than 2023 and 2024. So it's going to be. That's why when you mentioned a lot of our colleagues in the real estate world are hurting, this is why.
Sure.
And there's a multiple of things. Of course, interest rates are extremely important. Okay, but also the pricing of homes.
Yeah.
The affordability issue. It's not just one thing, it's many. And inflation. Inflation is that uh, silent
Killer.
yeah, the thief, that you don't see it.
Oh, I've heard inflation as the silent tax, or the
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the hidden tax.
Yeah.
Now,
And what happens with that, just to finish, is that your purchasing power is diminishing. So the value of your dollar is increasing. Okay? Excuse me, the value of your dollar is decreasing because inflation is chewing it up.
right.
So all you have to do is go to the supermarket and see what $100 buys you today, and figure out what $100 bought you 10 years ago. There was a kid on the internet that had a receipt of
Just
what
a couple of years ago.
oh, just a couple of years
Yeah,
ago.
everything, you don't see it right away, but I'm sure you can go back and look at old receipts and you
Yeah,
can see
this
the
kid
difference.
had a receipt of groceries that he had bought in, I think, 12 years ago or something like that. Okay, 12 years ago, and he said, "That's interesting. Let me see what it would cost to buy the same items now." And I don't remember exactly, but I think it was over 200%. So he had spent something like $65 or $55 12 years ago. And today, excuse me, to buy the same groceries and items that were on that particular receipt, I think the cost was close to $200, like 192 or 195 compared to 55. So that's 4 times, right?
Yeah. So things have obviously gotten more expensive. So how do you survive? Because those are essentials. What if it's milk and eggs and bread and
Well,
essentials?
a couple of people that where I was researching, they moved back with their parents. They said,
save on rent.
yeah, he said, I got a family to feed. Can I just live in the garage? And so they converted the garage by themselves, not this ADU, no permit, no nothing, and they're living in the garage. And they just in the 2 instances that I looked at, they were going or 3, they were going to save each something like $3,000 a month just in rents. One of them lost his house, and so he was going to save a lot more. But it's detrimental psychologically speaking, because the remarks that were there is that they felt defeated, that they couldn't handle taking care of their families and this and that. And the host was very gracious. He said, look, put your ego aside and just concentrate on taking care of your family, tighten your belt and keep moving forward. You're not the only one going through this. There's a lot of people that are living paycheck to paycheck, that a small thing like a car, some kind of motor issue that costs thousands, or a health issue, or anything that comes up that you need to throw more money into it, would potentially put you homeless, would potentially put you on the street. So there's a lot of people going through a lot. So
yeah, it's a setback, and so you have to regroup and then rebuild. But it's not the end.
No.
Right?
So a lot of people are moving back with their parents.
Cutting costs.
Cutting costs
quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sacrifices that come with that, because you lose your freedom when you move with your parents. They're used to, and there were a lot of things along those lines.
Sure.
But hey, you got to do what you got to do to get yourself back on your feet again. Essentially, that's it. It's a temporary thing, and that's the way you have to look at it and navigate through it.
Now, you're a boomer.
Yeah.
You're in your 60s.
Yeah.
And so you've seen other times that the market has gone down.
Yes.
And it's been, so how, let's say one of the most recent ones of 2008, 2007, 2008 housing crisis. How did you deal with that situation?
It was very difficult. It was very difficult because on the properties that I had bought, I saw the values of those properties diminish to the point that there were a couple that I owed more than what the property was worth, but yet revenue was still coming in. Okay?
Because they were income producing properties?
Correct.
Rentals.
Yes. So psychologically speaking, you see your hard-earned money evaporate. So it's very, very difficult. And I'm here to tell you today, Mike, that there was a time when I was forced to pay my property taxes with a HELOC that I had. So I had to pay my property taxes with an equity line of credit, not with cash that I had. And that is a very bad position to be in, okay? And I was there, and I've done that. And then, it plays on your mind because you know that you have to pay property taxes, and if you don't, you get penalized, and you get, what is it? You have to pay interest and late fees and all this kind of stuff, but you don't have the money to pay it. So you go into debt. So I was going into debt to pay for my property taxes. And I realized, hey, this is not a good road. I need to get out of this.
How did you get out of that?
I sold one property with a huge loss, but money came in, and I got rid of a major debt, and a little bit of money came in, and that started my thing going, because I saw that a couple of my friends did not want to get rid of one or two things in order to survive. They wanted to hold on to it because they had put a lot of money down, and that money had evaporated. The value of the property had dropped tremendously. And so, but that's how I did it. I sold one particular property. I think I sold two properties, and then I got rid of two debts, and a little bit of money came in, but now I didn't have those debts, and I was still employed. So it gave me an opportunity to breathe a little bit. But I was there paying my property taxes with my equity line of credit, and that's not good. I mean, initially, since it's interest-only payments, the payments are lower, right? But you're tacking on that debt to, and in this particular case, it was my primary home. And if you don't pay that, then you get in trouble, and they'll
You
come
lose
in.
the house.
You lose the house.
Yeah.
You lose your primary home. So nothing comes without sacrifice. You just have to focus and figure out what to do. Another thing that kept coming up in preparation for this podcast was that, and it came up almost as much as, the first one, which is try to live below your means. The number 2 option was build new skills. Figure out a side hustle somehow if you're still employed. Don't lose your job. Don't give your job everything you got so you stand out, and if layoffs come around, you don't get, thrown under that. But build new skills along with the job that you've got, and have those skills generate some kind of income for you. And it's incredible what people will do. Incredible. They'll go out and mow lawns. You've got engineers building block walls, and you've got people doing things that they would not normally do, but it's a side hustle that they've developed. One guy learned how to weld, and he was welding iron things, and so he got a part-time job welding, and that part-time job, he was so good at it that it almost came up to the salary on his main job. So now but he was working 65 hours a week.
I'm also thinking things that is ancillary the right word? They're like related to
Sure.
your existing line of business, let's say. So it's not like a completely different thing necessarily. It's just you're adding it to. It's related.
Yeah.
I was speaking with a buddy over the weekend that's in construction. and some of their work, like roofing, is heavily dependent on the weather.
Uh-huh.
And when it's pouring, they can't do the roof work, so they're somewhat limited. So they were sending some people home some days over the week, and then as weather kind of stays with lots of rain and whatnot, he was saying, look, I'm already getting a couple other side things over on the weekends and stuff because they're cutting hours.
Right.
So, but it's still related to their existing line of work.
Right.
And so, yeah, everybody's feeling it. Everybody's feeling
it. You know, they talked about try to be more disciplined, cook more at home instead of going out to eat, because it's extremely expensive. It's healthier to cook at home because you know what you're cooking as opposed to going to a restaurant. You don't know what they're doing. So, but they're talking about economics. So cooking at home is a lot more, economical than going out to a restaurant. They were talking. They also talked about check your lifestyle. This thing about keeping up with the Joneses. I honestly thought that was an old myth that no longer, but apparently not. It came up again and again. Like one instance was a guy that's making more money than his neighbor, yet his neighbor bought a new car and he can't afford to buy a new car, even though he knew for a fact that his career path generated more income than the neighbor. But the truth is, you don't know what position your neighbor is in. He might have hit the lotto. He might have inherited something. So you don't know. So
he's getting in massive debt.
Or he's getting into massive debt. Exactly. That was another one. The third. So you just don't know. So it's silly and immature to try to keep up with the Joneses. And I thought that was a thing of the past, but apparently not, because it popped up in trying to. And I'll tell you another thing. Layoffs are going to continue because artificial intelligence is taking a lot of jobs out. And there was a email that was leaked out. It wasn't supposed to go to the public, from Amazon. And Amazon, very short here, in the next few years, is going to cut over 600,000 jobs. And this was an email, a document that was leaked out. Okay. It wasn't supposed to be seen by the public.
Wow.
And in the next few years, Amazon is going to automate, with artificial intelligence. And they already have a lot of facilities that have robots doing boxes and things and that. But even more so.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to lay off over 600,000 people. So prepare yourselves. If you have a job, if you're one of the lucky ones that still has a job, prepare yourselves,
for the hit.
For the hit in case it comes.
We are constantly in different cities because of our business. We're in real estate, and we were in Santa Monica looking at properties with an investor, and we were seeing these Waymos driving around, which are these driverless vehicles. They have cameras all over the place. And there were passengers in the back. I'm not used to seeing that because we're not in the big cities all the time. But we saw a bunch of them, and then I saw a fleet of them in a parking lot. I don't know if they were charging them or what. They're probably electric too. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So they're these driverless vehicles. So it replaces the Uber driver. It replaces the taxi driver. You just call a Waymo. And then we were in Los Angeles area, the Los Feliz area, and we were seeing these. They looked like almost these little R2-D2s that were going down the sidewalk, and they had food in them. They were delivering food. It was a little robot.
It's crazy, for someone my age, it seems like I'm living. Yeah, I see those things right by. I know that. It's crazy.
And it stops, at the sidewalk. It knows when to cross and everything. So that replaces the, I guess, food delivery. Now you can say, well, that's more efficient. but it's replacing jobs.
It is replacing jobs because they don't get sick. They do malfunction. So you need a technician to fix them.
That's a job.
Okay. So what they're saying is one of the things about artificial intelligence is that, they don't take breaks. They don't take lunch breaks. They're extremely efficient and focused. They work all the time. They can work 24/7, and they have no exhaustion. They don't get tired. They don't get hurt. There's no workers' comp. So, companies are hurting so much that they're trying to find a way to cut somehow. And labor is one of the highest costs around. And so they're going to focus on doing artificial intelligence to minimize, labor and increase their profits because things are very expensive.
Yeah.
So to make a profit nowadays at any business is a challenge. It really, truly is.
Yeah.
It really is. But let's put a positive spin on this thing.
Essentially, we're replacing ourselves with AI, which one of the laws is to you don't want to replace yourself. You don't want to teach somebody so much that they end up replacing you, right? You want to keep them dependent on you. That's one of the 48 laws of power. Yeah, keep people dependent on you. So AI, we're training it and making it strong enough to actually replace us. It's a problem.
It's a problem because, look, there was this payroll company, I believe it's called Gusto, and they reported that there was a 66% increase in layoffs in people ages 45 to 54 in the last 3 years, okay, compared to 2022 and 2024. And there was a 400% increase in layoffs of people between the ages of 35 and 44. So the younger crowd is getting hit harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this kind of phenomenon, it's being called the Great Flattening. The Great Flattening. And because they see these waves happening, they named it the Great Flattening. And it's very interesting, And I think that they credit a lot of this to AI. And, so you need to prepare yourself. You definitely need to live below your means. You need to try to figure out, learn something new. We always say learn something new every day. Figure out a new hustle. How you can make money on the side. If you're still employed, thank your lucky stars. Excel at your job. And definitely figure out a way to make some side income. It's very interesting times we're living in.
Yeah. I think these principles stand the test of time.
Yeah, and they're commonsensical, right?
Yeah. It's just that we got out of track, let's say.
Yeah.
Because when the economy is doing very, very well, you think that it's going to continue like that forever. We were talking to business associates that are in the mortgage business, and we were talking about the changes in real estate and how it's affected. A lot of real estate agents have left the real estate world
by droves.
The part-time agents, a lot of them wiped out. And what he was saying was even the guys that thought they could weather it are now saying, I'm out.
That's very interesting to me.
He's like, the guys that thought, I can weather this a couple years. Those guys are also
getting hit and getting out.
So he was saying, really, it only leaves the professionals that's what they're dedicated in, and they're good at it, and they are able to weather this storm. That was a very interesting point.
That is because, as of August, this research hub came up with a figure of purchase agreements that have been canceled. They look at this, right? They Google this or whatever, As of August of this year, 56,000 purchase agreements have been canceled. As of August of this year. And apparently that takes first place compared to 2023 and 2024, which were amazingly high already. But as of August of this year, the number of purchase agreements canceled nationwide is over 56,000, which is a huge figure.
So those are people that open escrow to buy a property and then they end up canceling it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this particular company delved even further into it. Apparently, 18 or 22% of it was because of inspections and repairs that need to get done.
We also talked about insurance.
Insurance
can be a deal killer.
Oh, yeah.
We did that in a previous podcast.
Correct.
Well, I think it's very important to hear your take on surviving a bad economy because you've seen different economies and you've had to adjust in different economies. And for my generation, I never lived 2008, 2009 as a adult. Well, I was 18 in 2008, so I was not really working, still going to school, that kind of thing. So it's different now as an adult and thinking future and family and the current economy. It hits differently the current situation than it did back then.
Yeah. There's I remember thinking, I'll do whatever it takes to put food on the table. Whatever it takes. I'll get my hands dirty. If I have to go out and dig holes, whatever. There's a couple of people. There's in this study that I did, some people, for example, there were people that were getting executive pay. Like one particular guy was getting paid $87 an hour. Between $87 and $89 an hour. And they did the math. It equates to something like $177,000 to $200 because there was a range that was given. And so he's put out something like 1,100 resumes in 90 days or something like that. One particular company said, we'll hire you, but the most we'll pay you is $35 an hour.
What does he do?
He's a project manager for a construction company, and at one point he had something like 600 people that he was organizing and distributing to sites. And you need to have your logistics it's a very.
So he was offered a job.
He was offered a job, but he didn't take it. So sorry, he was making 87 to, I forget if it was 115. I should have my figures straight. Sorry, but his standards are that if I'm gonna do that, I'll try to figure something else on my own. If I'm gonna take that kind of a pay cut.
Yeah.
But imagine you're making $87, $92 an hour or something like this. And the company that's willing to hire you is offering you $35 an hour. What is that? Like a 40% hit?
Let's say.
Yeah, a third. A third. So you're taking a 60-something% hit, 67% hit. So it really, but at one point, and in this particular case, his wife was a stay-home mom. So you got to put your ego to the side and be willing to do whatever it takes to put food on the table. That's if it gets to that level, then you got to eat. The essentials are a roof over your head, food on the table, and heating for your family during the cold weather. And move on.
The basics.
Move back with your parents.
Well, it impacted me what this woman business owner said that I shared with you about parents nowadays. They're having less and less kids, or people my generation are having less kids because we want to give them the best of everything, that it's very, very expensive. And so you end up only having one kid or a small family because you can't afford to have that many kids. What she was saying is that, and she was, I believe, of Mexican descent. She was saying, look, back in the day, you would figure it out. You grew your family and you would figure it out. You didn't give them the best of the best because you couldn't afford that, but you did still have a family. What she was saying is that's the problem. And I think there's some truth to that. You don't have to go extreme on things and buy the most expensive things. And I think that I think it's a problem. It's everybody's own decision, every couple. But if we have less and less children, what happens to the future? The future is your offspring, and they're supposed to make the world a better place. And so I do think I'm veering off of the bad economy, but I think the bad economy actually is very much connected to families not having more kids.
Well, sure. It came up also, a kid nowadays will cost you between $100,000 and $300,000 by the time they get to college or so forth. So, and I've heard some of your friends your age joke about it.
It could be way more than that.
It could be more than, depending on your lifestyle, right?
Sure.
So, but I've heard a couple of your buddies your age saying, somebody got pregnant or whatever. Oh, get ready to spend between $3.5 million.
Yeah.
300. And they said it as a joke, but get ready for it.
I really
depending on what college you send this kid to or whatever.
I really think that some of my friends have decided to only have one kid because of how expensive it is, and so the economy directly affects also people's decision how many kids they're going to have.
Absolutely.
And their families. So, well, I do think that you've given some good points, and thank you for sharing on how to survive a bad economy, how to survive a current economy, and we have to just tighten the belt, like you said, and live below our means. That's the biggest takeaway.
And the one thing that I want to leave everybody with is that nothing lasts forever. So if you have living in a good situation, you still have a job, remember, prepare yourself. But if you are unfortunately been laid off and you're going through a tremendous difficult time, just remember that nothing lasts forever and you're going to get through this one way or another. And unite with your family. If you have to go live back home, with your parents, do it. Put up with the things that you have to do. It builds character and you're going to come out of this. You're going to come out of this because we all do. We all come out of it. Okay? And we've all at one point in time been there. So it's not the end of the world. Don't lose faith. Just keep fighting. That's the message to send.
We'll close with that.
All right.
Thank you.